Welcome to the God Put Me Up On Game podcast with Kristen R. Harris, where God shares all the good game because he wants you to win. This is the podcast for winners. Hey winners, what's going on, guys? Thank you so much for coming down to the Winner Circle for another episode of God Put Me Up On Game. I'm so grateful that you have joined us, and I'm super excited because today we have another game changer in the building. I'm really excited about this guest, and I know you'll be excited about her too when you get to hearing all the great things that she has to offer. I want to shout out Jonathan J. Emmanuel. He's actually the one who connected us. Jay is such a connector. I don't even know what to say about him. He's always connecting great people together. And Jay, I appreciate you if you're listening. Thank you so much for this connection. He hooked us together and we had a conversation. And what should have been a 30-minute conversation turned into over an hour of us talking. I actually told her that we should have recorded that conversation. That could have very well been this podcast episode, but she is such a delight. And again, I just thank Jay for connecting us. I want to say this, those of you who are always talking about your network, if your network is not working for you or the people in it, it's not really a network. So I thank you, Jay, for your amazing network, and I'm just blessed to be a part of it. So with that, I want to introduce to you guys none other than Mrs. Lisa Taitt-Stevenson. She is an amazing woman, and I can't wait for you to hear all of the wonderful stories she will share. Hey, Lisa, welcome to the Winner Circle.
Hey, my love. Thank you for having me. Now I truly feel like a winner. Oh, I'm so excited.
You are a winner. You are definitely a winner. We are so delighted to have you down here at the Winner Circle. Please introduce yourself. You know, I like for my guests to share with the Winner Circle who they are and what they do and whatever it is that you want to share.
Okay. So, as you so eloquently put it, I am Lisa Taitt-Stevenson. But, you know, it's so difficult to talk about yourself. It's so difficult for me to talk about myself. So I'm going to attempt to step out on this limb. I like to be known as a motivational conversationalist, if you will. I try to have every conversation have some sort of motivation behind it. I try to ensure that my time is spent with the utmost intention and is not wasted, since I kind of felt like a lot of my past was just wasted in existence as opposed to intentional in living. I'm a mom. I'm an author, yay. I'm a wife for the second time. Second time's a charm. You know, and I'm just a willing participant in this kingdom that I'm embracing. I'm in a space where I am loving life, but I am finally allowing life to love me back. So I'm excited about that.
Yes, you know what? And I'm so happy. See, I don't even have to guide this conversation. I can already see this is going to be on point because I had that. I pulled your statement. We have a guest intake form, and Lisa completed our intake form. And I actually pulled her quote because I wanted to start there. And she says, I am authentically intentional in my journey, cultivating my relationship with Christ. I am learning to move in a new space where I relinquish all control. Mm-hmm. And then this last statement is what she just said. I am finally in a place where I am loving life and allowing it to love me back. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about that last statement.
You know, for me, I sat in a space of punishment because of decisions I made that didn't go well. I didn't think I deserved to be loved. I didn't think I deserved the joy and the peace that comes with sitting at Jesus's feet. So I chose not to do that. I chose to be the Martha and not the Mary, if you will. But I'm finally in a space where I sit with Jesus and I realize, you know what? I can't let his death be in vain. And if I hold on to this space where I have to be punished for the things he already died for, then his death is in vain. So now I allow life to love me back. I allow myself to feel the joy that he said I'm entitled to embrace the grace and the mercy and the forgiveness. And that's what allowing life to love you back, at least for me, that's what it means, to walk in forgiveness, to walk in grace, to allow myself to feel the pain, knowing that there's always that peace underlying that God gives you, even in the midst of the storm. You know, when you realize who's piloting your plane, who's in the boat with you, there's a peace that remains in that. So that's me allowing life to love me back, and I love it. I love what the day brings. I'm enjoying it.
I love it. I love it for you. I think that's a beautiful space to be in. And we're going to get into just how you even got here and just your journey. We can go back. How many years now has this been? Don't get me to doing any math, but I'm supposed to be an engineer. You would think I could do this math in my head, but we're going to go back. We're going to go back to September 11th.
Yes.
2001.
Yes.
And I'm pretty sure that everyone who is under the sound of my voice can remember exactly where they were on that particular day. I know for me, well, let me say this. My sister, my younger sister, September 11, 2001 was actually her 16th birthday. And yes, it was her birthday. And the day before, on the 10th, the entire day. Now, I was away at college, but of course we had talked on the phone, and my family, she had kept saying this over and over again, that her birthday would be monumental, a day that no one would ever forget.
What?
Yes, she said this because, of course, you know, she's turning 16. It's her sweet 16. So she's making this big deal. And it's, you know, of course, this is a day that no one will ever forget, not for the reasons that she thought, but, you know, there's so much power and weight in our words that sometimes we don't even understand it. But I can remember where I was. I was actually in college at the time, and I had just gotten out of class. Mm-hmm. And I was in civil engineering. As I said, I'm an engineer by education and sometimes profession here and there. But I had just gotten out of class, and I had gone into the department office, and the administrative assistant was sitting there. She had a small TV on her desk, and I saw her looking kind of in disbelief, and I'm like, you know, Miss Patsy, what's going on? And she said, well, there's been a plane crash. And that's what she said. She left it at that. So, you know, in my mind, okay, it's a plane crash is bad, you know, but it's not as bad as what we would later find out. But literally, as I was standing there on live TV, we see this second plane crash into the second tower. Yeah. And that's when we knew that this was much more than a quote unquote plane crash. So I can go back to that moment. I can see myself standing at that counter in that office. I know what I felt. Everyone who I am connected with, who I ever have conversations with on 9/11, they can tell you exactly where they were. Lisa, I know that you know exactly where you were and what you were doing. And I want you to take us back to September 11th, 2001. Where was Lisa?
Wow, that day changed my life, and rightfully so. You know, it changed everyone's life in various ways. But for me, that morning was interesting. You know, my daughter was 2. She was not clingy by any means. God knew what type of child I needed. I was not that parent. So, you know, we left one another, bye, baby, I love you. And she kind of went on about her business. But that particular morning, she refused to let me go. She was crying, she was whining, and I did not really understand it. I figured maybe she was just having a moment, and I went on about my business. Prior to that, I promised God. See, I found out that when I promise myself things, they don't follow through. So I promised God things so that I could actually do it. So I promised God I would not go shopping. So I ended up leaving my daughter, and I went into the World Trade Center, and you know, they had all these wonderful stores in there. And my favorite store was the Gap, but I bypassed the Gap, and I went into I went towards security, towards the turnstile to go, and something said, and that is what we say when the Holy Spirit talks to us, something said, don't go upstairs. And it was so strong that I turned around and I walked around the concourse. And finally I said, all right, well, you know what? Let me go back upstairs now. Let's try it again. And something said, don't go upstairs. And security is looking at me like, what is the problem, Lisa? You keep coming to the turnstile, you're not walking through. And I just kind of waved it off. I went back. I bought a hat from the Gap, and something just kept saying, do not go upstairs. So I went to Bath and Body Works. And when I went inside, I was talking to my mom, which was something that I did daily. And a woman comes screaming inside. Oh my God, a plane hit the building. I need to call my sister. Now, I'm from New York. You know, someone screaming was like air passing through. So my mom says, what's that? I said, Mom, I don't know. Some woman screaming about.
You're like, some crazy lady. I don't know.
Right. I don't know, Mom. Some woman said the plane hit. Well, okay, whatever. Listen, she needs to use the phone. She's really, the urgency behind her tone lets me know, you know what, let her use my phone. So I said, Mom, I'll call you back. Give her the phone. She makes the call. Finally, someone in the store, I guess, realized there was some truth and told us to run to the back of the store. We go to the back of the store. I'm still completely oblivious. I have my package in my hand, go to the back of the store. Finally, they say, get out. So I'm near the exit of one side of the World Trade Center. I go outside, which is across the street from a firehouse, and the concrete is completely broken up. Almost looks like crumpled paper. And this was that moment in the movie where all of the sound around the person disappears because I no longer could hear anything. But I'm looking at the fireman who's telling me to run. Now I see him saying it. I don't really hear him, but I see him motioning, run. So finally, this thing starts to kick in, and I go running down the street. I'm trying to call my husband at the time. I cannot get through. Everyone's line is busy. I'm running. I get about 2 blocks away, and the people there are oblivious. So now I'm thinking I'm crazy, because I'm the only person running. So I'm looking around like, did I lose my mind? Did the plane not hit the building? I call my husband. I turn to the building. Lo and behold, there is smoke. A plane has hit the building. So now I'm freaking out. I call him and I'm crying. Oh my God, a plane hit the building. And he's like, Lisa, calm down, calm down. He says, calm down a second time. I turn and the second plane hits. Now I lose it.
Wow.
Lose it because at this point, you don't know if more is coming. So I said, another plane just hit the building. I have to go. I have to get to my mother. I'm an only child. My mom worked at the seaport. So I figured I'm going to die with my mother. At least I won't die alone. I'm running from the building to get to my mom. And my greatest fear was not dying. And I always thought that if and when I faced a moment like this, death would be my fear. And my fear was that I would die. And all they would say to my daughter was, wow, she was really nice. No contributions. I've made no impact in anyone's life. I just existed. And that scared the mess out of me. So I finally made it to my mother. We got out on the last train into Brooklyn, praise God. But that changed my life because he spared me. You know, he spared me and I went through survivor's guilt because I didn't feel I deserved that. You know, I know that people lost their lives that made more of an impact than I did. I went through depression and a good friend of mine said to me, he's not finished with you yet. And there's still work to be done. You were put here for a purpose. And it really put me on the path to realize you've existed long enough, Lisa. Life has passed you by, and now you have to get off of autopilot. I lived on autopilot. So now I live manual. I live with intention. I live on purpose. And sometimes I have to force myself to do that.
Yeah, wow. Okay. So there's so much in that to unpack. You know, when we see images of that day, we see people flooded in the streets full of dust and suit. Was that like where you were? Like, is that your reality?
Yeah, that's the reality.
Wow.
That is the reality. Something that we never could even imagine to experience. We experienced.
So I know you say you're on the phone with your husband and you hang up, you gotta go. Where does that part go? I know that wasn't really a part of my story, but since you shared that, what happened in that moment? Because I gotta imagine you're talking to your husband, you're calling him, his wife is frantic,
Yeah.
and you just hang up the phone. What happens after that?
I run for it. I run for my mom because you know it's unfortunate. I wasn't in the best of space with my husband at that time. So in my mind, my daughter wouldn't necessarily miss me. She was two. We didn't have, to me, that much of a bond that she would. It wasn't years and years and years that we had built of history we had built up. So she would miss her mom initially, and unfortunately, because she was so young, I didn't think, and I could be very wrong, that the impact would have been as great as if she were older. And perhaps that's how my brain worked in order for me to wrap around the possibility of me losing my life, you know, and me and my husband not being in a great place. I figured, well, he'll get over it. And again, this was me rationalizing everything that was going on. And all I kept thinking was, just get to your mother, Lisa. You cannot die alone. You don't want to die alone. So I ran frantically to get to my mom. Just let me die with her. This was all I knew. It was me and my mom growing up. So that was our beginning. And for me, I guess it was going to be our end.
So it's really interesting that, as you said, the things that you feared was not death in that moment. It was more or less, one, dying alone, but two, leaving this earth without having made an impact.
Yeah.
What has changed for you besides, of course, you went through this situation? So what was that? What did that moment look like when you said, okay, like once you got beyond all of this, and we'll talk about your recovery process in a second, because I'm sure there was a process to recover and bounce back from something like this. But what was it? What was that aha moment for you on the other side of recovery, where you realized, okay, these are the things that I need to do to start living life on purpose? Or what did that look like for you?
You know, again, I had a friend that your circle is so critical. I had a friend that pulled me out of that and pulled me out of the house and reminded me of my value and my worth. Excuse me. But immediately after, I began to kind of look at my life and my journey. And in my journey of existence, I had endured and weathered so much that there was a realization that I didn't endure it and weather it just to kind of die with it. You know, it's kind of like recipes your grandparents pass on. We don't realize as women, as human beings, our pitfalls are things we pass on too. We have to show for myself, I had to show other women what it looks like to still stand despite everything that life threw at me. So immediately after, I began to realize that my pain that I had endured was for my purpose, even September 11th. You know, and it started with me merely being open and bare and authentic in who I was, and take off this cloak that I wore to give the perception of okayness, that I was not okay. And I was flawed, and I had scars that I barely wanted to look at myself. To say to another woman, this scar that you have gave you value. So that's how my intentionally living process started, with me sharing with the women all that I had endured up to that point and saying, sis, you're going to make it. You are even more beautiful with that scar. That thing didn't take you out like it wanted to, you know?
And I imagine that, as you said, you know, being a survivor, because that's what you are, you survived 9/11. and probably a host of other things that have transpired in your life. We are all survivors. If you're listening to me today, you have survived something. And so, you know, I can understand how you can deal with survivor's guilt, knowing that so many people didn't make it out of there. But the flip side of that is to know, God, if you spared me, I better do something with this. I better do something with my life. I cannot disrespect you and dishonor you in a way that my life is not an example of someone who made it out of something as horrendous as 9/11, and I don't do anything with it. So to hear that, you know, you've taken that and you've taken that pain and you've turned it into your power, and it's turned into your purpose, and now you're helping women, and you're doing some other things I think we'll talk about in a second. You know, I'm sure that God is pleased and he's smiling, because I could not fathom you making it out of that and not doing the things that you're doing. And I do believe that there's just some things that we don't come back from the same. There's some situations that we endure in life that forever shift the trajectory of our life, and they change our mindset, and they change our posture, and just even how we approach things. And I'm sure that something as intense as that, I can't even imagine. You know, when we first had our conversation and you told me that you had survived 9/11, and, you know, just even me envisioning you listening. Let's talk about that. Listening to that quote unquote something, that still small voice that spoke to you not once, but twice, and said, don't do it. How did you even get to a point where you listened to that something? Because, you know, as strong Black women, let's just be honest.
Come on now.
As strong Black women, we do what we want to do. We know what we think we know, and we move how we feel like we should move. So in that moment, how did you, I don't know, like, why do you think you listened at that moment? Do you always listen to that something?
No. No. And, you know, it's interesting because I you know, God is so amazing. He knows us so well, and he knows his child. And he knows sometimes when the voice is just too still and too small, I bypass. But this time it came with such a heavy feeling, almost to the point of feeling nauseous. He left me no choice, you know, like Noah's Ark. He shut the door because he knew if he let Noah shut it, Noah will open it again. If the right person knocked on the other side of that door, Noah would open it. And he knew that if this voice didn't give enough power, Lisa might keep going. Lisa might go, well, you know, it's okay. So he knew I need to give her a little bit more than just a little nudge. I need to shove her and say, we're not going that way right now, in order for me to listen. I've gotten better. That was then. I've gotten better.
I'm sure, like, to know that you listened in that moment, that probably has changed your listening habits for life. Like you probably are the model child for obedience to God. Let me just say, because I tell them, on the winners on here, they already know that Kristen can be a bit disobedient. I have a high tolerance for pain, so I get a lot of whoopings in the spirit. And, you know, I'm getting better. I'm getting a lot better because, you know, I'm trying to get my rewards, and I want to please God. So, and I'm tired of getting whoopings. So, you know, I've gotten a lot better, but to go through something like that, I'm sure that changes even just your ability to, you know, a lot of times we think we hear God and then we second guess ourselves. And I'm sure maybe for you, going through that has even, you know, eliminated you second guessing God, was that you? Because I was listening to someone telling me something. I can't remember what I was listening to. It was a couple of weeks ago, but it was saying that even if you second guess if that's God, what if you just take it as if it is him speaking to you, you know, and you just move, and then you later find out that, okay, it wasn't, but I'm safer on this side moving as if it was. And so to hear your story, I would imagine that You know, when you hear something and you think, if you even have an inkling that it's him, you move because you know that your very life could depend on it because yours did. So I'm just inspired by that. And it, to me, it's just a reminder for me. And I hope to everyone that's listening, you know, move when God says move, and be obedient. You know, it takes me back to Lot. You know, there was his wife who turned to look back, and she didn't make it because that moment of disobedience cost her life.
Right.
So
Right.
I'm happy that you're here. I'm happy that we can have this conversation, and that you listened in that moment. So tell us a little bit about the recovery process, because like I said, I'm sure it was a journey. You know, there's some things we just don't return from the same. What did yours look like? I heard you say you went through depression and some other things. How did you recover, and what did you have to do? What were the tangible steps you had to take to come out of that?
You know, always kind of kept things to myself. I didn't really share. My life began on keeping a secret. You know, I was molested from 4 to 8, so my life began on secrets. Don't tell. And from that point on, it kind of dictated anything that I endured, I weathered alone. And in my mind, that 4-year-old and 8-year-old made it because you did it alone. So that thought process continues. Stand on it alone. Don't show anybody. Don't tell anyone. You can get through it. You got through it before. You can get through it again. So I spent a lot of it alone. But I've always stood with God. So many nights I was crying out. And I mean, crying, desperation, pleading, begging. Let me know you hear me. Give me something. You know, I don't understand. It makes no sense. And my friend, as I indicated, Tammy, who I love like myself, is relentless. And she was like that small voice. She would not take no for an answer. Get out your house, Lisa. I'm not coming out my house, Tammy. Come with it. And I fought her tooth and nail, and she refused to listen. So she really helped the process because she helped me to realize it was necessary to bring in people that loved me. You know, I needed my circle to love me in times where I couldn't love myself. And they did that. So my process was really holding on to people that were strong enough to lift me when I couldn't lift myself. You know, the good thing about God is he will send vessels because he realized as human beings, we need touch. We need someone there, hence sending Jesus in human form. We need another person. So he allowed me to have this incredible circle that I didn't realize he was strategically planting before this even happened, that would be there ready to hold me up. So it really took leaning and holding on to people and being bold enough to say, I need help. We don't do that often, you know. And when someone said to me, call me if you need me, call them on it. We tend not to believe it because sometimes it's fluff.
Yeah.
But I was calling people left and right like my life depended on it, because it did. You know, but then I had a daughter that I needed to fight for. So there was this thing that I was fighting for as I leaned on these women that were holding me up. It was mind-blowing. It was incredible. It was everything I needed and everything I thought I didn't want at times. Mm-hmm. But it was, yeah.
How long do you think it took you to really process through everything?
Probably a year. Probably a good year, because having to ride the train to go back into the World Trade Center broke me. Mm. You know, having to go back to that area broke me. Having to answer the questions with, are you okay? Tell me about it. You know, there are those that are so eager to ask questions. You don't want to walk that road anymore. So it took me a good year to be okay enough to not question God's decision in sparing me, and not say, I think you made a mistake, because I went through that a lot. And yeah, it took a good year. And there was still some residual going on, but a good enough year for me to be able to kind of stand and say, okay, I get it. Now what is it you would have me to do with this life that you know I just existed in all that time.
With those residuals, do you still experience that now? And how does that manifest?
Every September 11th is emotional for me, but I sit in a space of gratitude. I sit in a space of, I'm grateful that I get to live a life to ensure that those who didn't make it, their death wasn't in vain, as you indicated. I get to ensure that people remember the humanity that happened during that time. It's sad that it's gone again. But I get to remember that there are times that, interestingly enough, there are times that if I am down in the World Financial Center now, you kind of get a feeling, and something will kind of trigger it, but it doesn't hurt in a crippling way. But it's almost like a just remember and be grateful. Be grateful for everything that day entails and reminds us about. But I have to stand in the space of God still has had his hand in all of it. Because if we keep looking at the negative as that's over there and God is over here, we will struggle to be in the midst of it. I have to sit in a space of, even with this pandemic, God is still in control. No matter what the enemy throws at you, he has to come to God first to get permission, just like he did with Job. Satan has a boss, so I have to say, I may not agree, Lord, but I understand it is for the kingdom and there is a purpose behind it. And I may not even live long enough to know what it is, but I stand in the position that you have your hand in it. So I'm okay. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I would say that you are a phenomenal woman, Lisa. You are definitely a phenomenal woman, and just walking through that and coming out and just seeing how resilient you are. And I know that God has been a very integral part of that process. And but I'm just grateful to him and for you just making it out and still pushing through. I know that you've shared so many different gems, but what would you say is the greatest piece of game? This is the Winner Circle, so we share game. What is the greatest piece of game that you've taken away from just that whole ordeal?
I think for me, the biggest thing is autopilot. I think that's the biggest thing for me. We live on autopilot. We will walk past someone and say, how you doing? And before they get the answer out, we are gone. And autopilot is killing us. It is killing us. That one moment you pause to listen could be life over death. You don't know what ledge anyone is standing at any given moment. If someone would just take the time and say, are you okay? And wait to hear the response. Now, you may not get the story, but all they needed to know was that someone cared. You don't know if someone said to God, I just need to know that you hear me. And it was your question that was the answer to that prayer. We don't see one another. We're not looking at one another. But it's interesting that we are in a pandemic right now that forces us to do that very thing.
Yes. And I was going to say that same thing when you said, with 9/11, you were able to see the humanity. I feel like these situations come up and they force us to see each other. They force us, but it doesn't ever last because we go right back into our cycles. Even with this pandemic, I feel like we've gone through cycles of seeing each other and then not seeing each other. It's because I feel from my perspective at the very beginning, you know, we were all like, oh my goodness, you know, I'm here for you. I care for you. Then we went through, you know, let me get mine, you get yours.
Right.
And it's like, as these numbers increase, I feel like we're on our way back into, I see you. I care for the medical professionals because they are tired and they are burned out.
Yeah.
And it's an endless vicious cycle. And it's just, if we could just stay the course of caring for the things that God cares for the most, and that's his people.
Yeah.
That is the only thing that he's concerned about, is his people. We're concerned about a whole slew of things, but God is concerned about his people. And until we make his people the first things on our mind, we'll continue. We'll have tragedy after tragedy that forces us back into that space.
That's right. You are so right. And that's when we have to pause and go, what am I not learning and what am I missing that I have to keep going through this? And we say that, why do I keep going through this? Well, there's something you're missing and there's a lesson you're not learning. And my fear is, because if you notice, every time we go through this cycle, it's something that's a little bit worse. Mm-hmm. So then I don't want to know what it's going to take. Yes, he said he would never take us by water again, but I don't know what it's going to take for us to get to that point that he's clearly trying to get us to. As you indicated, the humanity and the love for one another. But I think the problem is a lot of our perception of this love for one another, we seem to think is, then I have to hug you and embrace you and call you my best friend. And he's not saying that. He's saying, just pray for one another, uplift one another, stop bashing one another. Right, be decent, don't take someone's life. And murder is not just killing someone life-wise. Don't kill someone's spirit. Don't kill their joy. Don't kill their faith. Don't kill their belief. Don't kill their standards. But we're not getting it. And please, let's get it. I'm so tired of this.
Well, Lisa, you know, I think this is one big bad group project. So Kristen and Lisa are doing our part. I need for everyone else to do theirs, okay? So we can't pass without your help. So if you're listening and you're not doing your part for this group project, because I am the person in the group that goes to the teacher and I say, listen, I've done my part. Can I please just get the A? God's like, nope. I need everyone to get it. And then I'm like, well, can I do it for everyone? Because I've been that person in the past. I'll just, you know what, forget it. Give me all the work. I'll do it because I know I'm going to do a great job. God's like, nope. So I need everyone to do their part so that we can get out of this mess, get out of this cycle.
That's right. God, like Big Mama, he's spanking everybody. I don't care who did it. Everybody getting a spanking.
Yes. So, Lisa, you know, going back to you turning your pain into your power, you turning your pain into your purpose. As you said, you're an author. And not just a one-time author, right? You've written a few books, right?
Yes, I have.
Yes. Multiple-time author. You also have a podcast coming down the pipeline soon. So I want to talk a little bit about these things because I believe that this is a part of you living your life on purpose, out loud, and really sharing these things so that you being here is not in vain. So tell us a little bit about, you know, the projects you worked on, things you got coming up, whatever you want to share.
Okay. So the books are, it's a Being Me is Enough line. Super excited about it. I wrote it because as a mother, I know my biggest concern was, you know, are they fed? Are they warm? Do they have on clothes? Not realizing that self-esteem was pretty low on the list. I didn't feed into my children's value as I should have. And I struggled with that. And I struggled with my own self-esteem as well because I wasn't able to separate what happened to me from the story that I built around it. So he broke up because I'm not worthy of love. You know, they left me because something's wrong with me. And when in all actuality, they just left. Now, something may have been wrong with me, but I don't need to love them.
Right. That's separate from why you left. That was your thing, your issues, not mine. Yeah.
So I ended up writing this line, and they're books of affirmation and motivation. One is for men, women, children, and the LGBTQ plus community. I'm super excited about it. I love the one for children. I was told that it's really good for SEL, social emotional learning.
Yes.
Forgive me
yes.
if I'm wrong. Yes,
That's
I got it.
Yes. I live with an educator. I hear it all the time. That's it.
Great. So that's the line. They all are on Amazon. There's my plug. I just finished Have You Ever Heard a Butterfly Cry? I'm so excited about
Yes. I love that title. Oh my goodness, I can't wait to read that, Lisa. I love that title. I told you that the first time we talked. It's something about that title that is like drawing me in. I cannot wait.
I'm telling you, I was sleeping on my couch. I moved out of my house when I left my ex-husband. Sleeping on my couch. I didn't have a bedroom set. And he gave me that title in a dream. I got up, I wrote it down. I tried to give it away. I was passing it off to people. Here, you use it, because I was like, Lord, why? I wasn't even writing at that time. So I didn't know the writer that he had in me. And he was just like, nope, that's yours. So I wrote it. It is my story. Completely raw, completely naked, completely bare. It was therapeutic. I have put it all out there, and that is where it stays. That is where it stays. I'm on to the next chapter. I love it because I no longer have to lead with those things. Mm-hmm. That book reminded me that those things didn't define me. I'm not defined by those things. I'm defined by whose I am.
Yeah.
But before, I felt I was defined by the abuse, mm-hmm. and defined by the pain, and defined by the hurt. So I'm really excited about this book, allowing me to release it, but to share with other women, again, we stand, we make it, mm-hmm. and we're awesome.
Yeah.
We're amazing. When we take a moment to stand in a space of all we've endured and weathered, and we're still living, we are incredible. Yeah. Just take a moment to sit in that space and love on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I fell in love with me all over again during that book, and I loved it. Yes. So.
Well, this looks good so you guys can't see her, but we're on a video chat. So I see the glory all over her, and it looks amazing on you, Lisa. Let me just tell you, it looks amazing on you. I'm so just inspired by your journey and you getting to this point. I can't wait to read that book. I know that it's going to change so many lives and really aid in the healing of women, and like you said, helping them get to that space where they realize, like, I'm a bad woman, So, I've gone through all of that, and here I am. I'm still standing, and I'm doing all these things that the world expects of me, and yet I'm still just secure in who I am and who I am as the woman who God called me to be. So that is so beautiful. I want to ask you one quick question, because you said something, and as the publisher and the writer, it burned my ears. You said that you didn't realize the writer that God had in you. I want to talk about that. How did you, because I feel like, let me tell you why I want to talk about it. Because not just with writing, of course I heard the writing that piqued my interest, but not just with writing, but there's so many gifts that we don't even know yet. Like, there's so much untapped potential inside of us that we haven't even uncovered yet. One, because so many of us haven't done anything with the things that have already been revealed to us. So God's like, I don't need to show you anything else because you haven't done step one first. And then the other part is, I think sometimes we don't think that we're capable. So even when God begins to give us glimpses of these things that he's placed inside of us, we're like, am I really worthy to carry all of that? Because we think we have to be one-sided. We don't ever think of ourselves as multi-dimensional or multifaceted or multi-purpose when we were made in God's image. God is so multi-dimensional. So I could never imagine just having one gift and that being all that I have to share with the world. And so I want to hear, like, how did you come to realize that you had that writing gift down in your belly?
You know, again, God knows me so well. God puts me in positions where he's like, I'm going to make you give birth to this thing. See, you trying to wait this whole 9-month, 18-month, 27-month labor process. Here's what we about to do. We about to induce labor. And that is what he did with me. So I was at a job for 18 and a half years, and there was an acquisition, and they said, here's the thing. I know you think you own this office, and that's very cute, but you do not. You have to go. And I was like, are you kidding me right now? And I went into panic mode, because what am I to do? That's all I know. As you indicated, we think it's just one thing. That's all I know. I go to work, 9 to 5, Caribbean parents. I was taught well. And God is saying, but there's other things inside of you that you need to give birth to. And my thing was always sayings, these quick hits, these affirmations, and someone would go, oh, I have to write that down. I got to write that down. And he's like, but you already have it in you. And it was that urgency and that panic that I cranked out my first book probably in a month. Mm-hmm. And then it just kept coming. And I was like, wow, I didn't realize, okay, Lord, there's a writer inside of me. Well, then what else? Because now I'm excited. And then he's like, great. So you have this wonderful ability to kind of talk and throw these analogies in when it comes to biblical. So now you're going to talk about stuff. And I'm like, here's the thing. You might as well call me home if you think I'm going to stand on anybody's stage and do anybody's public or speak. And glory be to God, there's a thing called podcast. So.
And that's why you're a conversationalist and not a speaker, right?
And you see how God loves me? He's like, we're going to go through the back door. We're going to make you a conversationalist.
He said, however you need to frame it, but you're going to do it. So whatever makes you feel good, but at the end of the day, you're going to do what I said. I love it. I love it.
Right.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
That's beautiful. So with the can we talk about the podcast real quick? Okay. I didn't know if it was, sometimes we got to wait for things to, get finalized.
Speak it into existence. I already sent you 2 of them.
I know, and I listened, and I was very impressed. I can't wait for it. So tell us a little bit about the podcast before we get out of here.
I'm so excited. The podcast is called Let's Talk Relationship, Not Religion. I grew up Catholic. So I had to go to church every Sunday. We didn't graduate if we didn't get a note saying we went to church, and we did everything and checked the boxes. And then I left that and I went on to another church and I did the religion thing again. But I struggled because my perception of who God was always based on someone else's conversation about him. And I was like, okay, great. He did all of that for you, but how am I to know he's going to do that for me? And then having children that are in college who really struggle with religion. How am I going to share with them who God is? And I can't even get them to walk into this building because they've associated God and this building so closely. And, my husband now, we constantly talk about, it's the relationship that's missing. He and I could sit in this house, but unless we cultivate a relationship, this is not a marriage. So this podcast is really talking about what having a relationship with Christ is like and how you cultivate that in the same way that you cultivate one with someone that you like. You talk and you actually listen. How many times during prayer do you actually pause long enough to just listen? I mean, this is not a conversation. If this conversation we're having, it was just me talking and you kind of sit there and you listen. They'd be like, well, where's Kristen's voice? We don't hear her at all.
Look, I have nothing to say. I'm just here to glean all the information from Lisa. Okay? I have nothing to say.
But So I'm excited about it. And it's a very comfortable conversation. By no means do I sit in that space and say I'm an expert, but I'm an expert in my relationship with him. And I just want to share what that could potentially look like when you attempt to have one with one that's so eager to have one with you. He wants to have this relationship with us. The beautiful thing about him, it's a blessing, and sometimes it feels like a curse, is that he's a gentleman and he won't come in unless he's invited. So I love it. I'm excited about it.
Yes, I can't wait. So when can we hear it out on the airwaves?
My goal is mid-December, because I'd really love to have a large amount in my arsenal so that I'm ready and prepared and kicking them out every week. So I'm going to say mid-December.
Okay, well, we'll look forward to that. And I'll be sure to remind you guys in the Winner Circle. I'll be sure to remind you when it comes out, because I know that after listening to this episode, you're going to want some more of Lisa, and then you also meet her lovely husband. So they're having great dialogue and conversation. I did get a sneak peek. I got the advanced copy. So it's definitely something you want to tune into. So I'm super excited about that for you guys. All right, Lisa. So this is the fun part of our episode. Well, it's all been fun, but this is the really fun part. This is our lightning round. I'm going to ask you 3 questions. I just need your knee-jerk reaction. Don't think too hard about it. Okay. Number 1, what is a song that immediately shifts your mood? Any genre?
Wow. Oh my gosh, I just listened to it this morning. It is Yes by The Walls.
Shekinah Glory?
The Walls Group.
Oh, okay. By the Walls Group. Okay, yes, by the Walls Group. Got it. That's it. Okay, number 2. What is a scripture that you keep in your arsenal?
A scripture that I keep in my arsenal, I cannot say it verbatim, but it is 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 7. Mm-hmm. Because during these times I struggle with, Lord, what is going on? I'm doing what you would have me to do. Why are we not moving? And he essentially says, these are the times that you are proving your love for me. Mm. And now I go, okay, then I'm going to walk this road because I am loving you and I want to prove it. Yeah. Wow.
And that's 1 Peter
chapter 1, verse 7.
Love it. Love it. All right. So lastly, I need you to choose a number 1 through 2,000. I have my lovely book here, and it's going to give you a random question. It's 2,000 questions in here. Now, if you choose a number that has already been chosen, you have to choose another one.
1 through 2. Give me 2,000.
Oh, okay. I don't think we've ever done the last one. What is the last thing someone talked you into doing that you didn't want to do?
The last thing someone talked me into doing that I did not want to do. Oof. Wow. I don't know. Oh my goodness, great. Why would you ask me that?
Well, you chose 2,000.
You know what? I will say this. It's my son. My son talked me into ordering him some of those video games, somethings. He has
something.
He really talked me into that one. I did not want to do it, but I love my baby boy and I did it. That's the last thing. There you go.
How did he convince you? Was it just your love?
It was not just my love. He convinced me because he told me that he was doing so well in school. Mm-hmm. And he said to me that he would clean the bathroom. That's always a winner for me.
You said, okay, you had me a bathroom. No need to go any further.
Right, you could have started with the bathroom. Here is the bank card. Order what you need to order. No problem. That one, and taking him to McDonald's.
Take him to McDonald's?
Yes. I told you how I feel about that right now, but I did it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because you're not eating out, right?
I can't do it.
Okay.
I can't.
Still not yet? Lisa, I got tired of cooking, okay? I was like, look, hey, what do you guys want? DoorDash? Let's get I can't do it anymore. I needed a break. But I think that the way we're headed, I think I'm going back to how strict I was in the beginning. I told you we're in these cycles, right? But I get it. I get it. Oh my goodness. Well, this has been an amazing conversation, as I knew that it would be. Is there anything that you want to ask me, or any last thoughts you want to share?
Well, you know what? I am excited to be working with you, Miss Lady, with this book. That I am super excited about. I mean, let me, everyone that is listening that has not met you, wow. I'm so sorry that they have not met you yet, because you are incredible. Oh. You are incredible. I reached out to Jonathan to tell him your anointing is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. I used to hear people say that, oh, they have an anointing on their life. And I would really be like, oh yeah. I didn't understand that. But then Jonathan came and he clearly has one. But then I encountered you and I said, wow, if that's what Jesus looks like on me, then I am all right. I am doing well. So I want you to know that I see you. I appreciate you. I want you to know that I am overjoyed that for those that do not know Jesus, if you are their perception, their first encounter with Jesus, well, hallelujah, they are going to go over to his side. It is awesome what you're doing. Such a blessing.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate all of that, you know. I appreciate it all, and then I give God all the glory, because this is, you're right, this is Jesus, okay? Because Kristen, as the people that really know me, they be like, yeah, you know, God has done a good work in her, okay? And he's completing it until the end.
I love it. I love it.
But yes, no, thank you so much for that. And thank you for coming down to the Winner's Circle. I know that everyone has been richly, richly blessed by this conversation. Before we go, how can they keep up with you? Tell them where to find all this amazing stuff you got out here in the world. And
okay, so Amazon is where the books are.
And tell them the name again.
It's Being Me Is Enough for Women. Being Me Is Enough for Kids, one for men, and one for the LGBTQ+. I also have a book titled It Is What It Is Until It Isn't. They're all affirmations. I'm also currently working on one right now. This is my last plug. Titled, Please Do Not Tell Me to Just Pray.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. That one is needed for me because I didn't get things from the quintessential scriptures that people just kind of throw at me. I needed more. So that one is going to be coming up on Amazon too. I'm excited.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah. And I am on Instagram. I'm trying to remember what my name is on there. So forgive me.
Look, you don't spend a lot of time there or something.
I know, it's shameful. I know. I'm going to get better. I promise you I will get better. It's lifecoach.ltaitt. And then I have a second one, which is authentic_author 911.
911. All right. We won't forget that. Well, listen, winners, go and connect with Lisa. She is amazing, as you guys have already heard. Such a light in this dark, dark world. And I am just so blessed to have made this connection. I thank you, Jay. Thank you for making the connection between the two of us, because we exchanged numbers that day. We were like, we are in this for the look. You are a life journeyman now, so there's no hiding from me. So I'm super excited just about all the beautiful things that will come from this. And I just thank you so much, Lisa, again, for coming down to the Winner's Circle and sharing all that good game with our listeners. Listen, winners, thank you guys so much for coming down to the Winner's Circle. You already know I love you. I appreciate you. Remember, God puts us up on that good game because he wants us to win. That's it. He wants us to win at this thing called life. So keep winning. Remember, stay safe and stay sane. Until next time, it's your girl, Kristen R. Harris, and I'm out. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in for another episode of God Put Me Up On Game. Make sure you follow us on social media at God Put Me Up On Game and at Kristen R. Harris. We'll see you next week.